This is the Voices of Herriman podcast, the podcast that amplifies the voices of our community. Nestled here in the heart of Herriman, where everyone has a story. Whether you're a Herriman native, a newcomer, or an admirer from afar, I got you on this adventure. Welcome to the Voices of Herriman. All right, guys, welcome back into Voices of Herriman. Again, I'm Kevin Allred, and we are here in the basement of Redemption. This time, we are with Chris Roberts, Herriman City Council, running for District number one.
Yes, one.
The Uno. All right, so Chris, you've been married almost 15 years now?
Yeah, we'll be celebrating 15 years next spring.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got three just awesome kids.
Yeah, I have two daughters. They're our oldest. One's 10. One's turning actually 8 this week. So we're at home.
Cool.
We're at home getting ready to celebrate, get all the birthday stuff out and have a good time.
Let's go.
And then we actually the day we closed on our house on the Dill after building it, my wife said, "Hey, we're pregnant." And
Boom.
and our little boy came along. So
I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
It's great.
Now, you've been in law enforcement for 15 years now.
Yes, 15 years.
Tell us a little bit about that, what that journey's looked like.
Oh, so in 2008, I got done, studying at Salt Lake Community College and was just kind of looking for opportunities. And the Department of Corrections was in a great need for people. And so I just started working for the Utah Department of Corrections down at the point of the mountain, which is no more.
No more there.
Strange, but
Yeah, a little eerie.
Yeah, it's very different driving through that part of the valley now. But I'm excited. That's gonna look incredible when it's all done. But I started working down there as in clinical services as a medical technician, kind of taking care of the prison population that was there. Did that for a couple of years, and then I transferred out to adult probation and parole, and worked in halfway houses and did case management for a long time, helping people, transition back into society. And the majority of my time is spent actually in the field with adult probation and parole. And currently I'm a supervisor with that agency, and I have a team of 7 excellent agents, and we're just out there trying to, ensure public safety, but also change lives and help people become successful.
I love it. Well, appreciate your service. Law enforcement is definitely not an easy branch to be in, but we definitely appreciate your service.
Mm-hmm.
So you're an outdoorsman. So tell us a bit more about what you like to do. What are some of your hobbies?
Oh, my hobbies, camping. I love being outside and out in the outdoors. Outdoor cooking is huge.
Yeah.
I can make things happen with a Dutch oven.
There we go. All right.
We can make some mean breakfasts and some. I like to take the lid of a Dutch oven, flip it over, and make a big pancake out of that. I like doing that. That's fun. Other things, fishing, especially with my dad. Like I'll never pass up an opportunity to get out in the boat with Dad and just hang out with him. And we were able to do that a couple times this summer, and it's just great times. So we just love just being out there up in the mountains and that crisp morning air and being out on the boat. I love that. I also smoking food. I make a mean smoked mustard.
All right.
It's pretty good. You'll have to come over and try some.
It sounds delicious.
Yes.
I'm always in for good home cooked food. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what got you kind of started into the political process?
Being an employee working for the government, working for the state of Utah. Several years ago, I just realized how many decisions are made in government that impact our lives.
Yeah.
And so I started reaching out and kind of seeing where I can be more beneficial. Where could I be heard? I've been a delegate several times over the years in the past, and I've been able to go to conventions and speak with people who are running for office and speak to people that are in office. and pay attention. And I just really started noticing how much elected officials impact our lives, the decisions that are made and the voices, and got really interested in that. And when we moved out to Herriman, I met with, it was actually Teddy, and just got to, sit down with him. He had just been elected, or he was in the race at that point. This was, a few years back, but just meeting with him and get to know him, and really just kind of got really interested in talking about it. And then this spring I heard that District 1, the seat was open for election. Took a cruise with the wife. We went down. I actually made the final decision to do this in the middle of the Caribbean, and just enjoying that atmosphere, and it's relaxed and calm. And I'm like, can I run for city council? And Lindsay was so supportive, and she's like, you do it anyways, so why not go for something bigger? Why not level up this time? So that's what we're doing.
I love it. Proof that good decisions can be made in the middle of the Caribbean.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Imagine that.
So, but why city council? What kind of spur you? Because there's a big difference between like delegates and and legislative process.
For sure.
Why the jump to city council?
The decision, southwest corner of the Salt Lake Valley is probably the biggest booming area in the West. Probably there's a lot going on in between, especially the county line in between Herriman and Bluffdale and, Lehigh and Saratoga and Eagle Mountain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity, a lot of exciting things are happening. I want to be part of it. I want to have the discussions and with the, development and the stakeholders and other things to make sure that we're focusing on the right infrastructure, making sure, all this open space out here, probably a majority of it will be new housing, as we've seen, recently, especially in the last decade.
Yeah.
That's going to continue to come, but are we making the right decisions? Are we doing enough to keep traffic congestion low? Our safety, kids. I live near one of our elementary schools. The traffic in our neighborhood, the amount of people that are dropping their kids off to school and are running stop signs, things like that, and just want to educate that and just be like, hey. So I started looking into that kind of things, and with the city council, I mean, I'm in Herriman for the long haul. We're going to be here forever. So I definitely look forward to being someone that can influence the community and be that driver.
Awesome. Excuse me. So we got a couple questions that come from our community members. The first couple have to deal with the local economy. So first question is, what do you do personally to support local businesses and business owners? The second part to that question is, how can you lead the community in affecting these efforts further?
What do I do personally?
Yeah.
To support local business? If there is out here, it's a weekly discussion, if not a nightly discussion in the Roberts household of what are we going to do this week? Where are we going to support it? I always try and focus on that. We try to go out to dinner. I'm looking at our restaurants, Garage Grill. We just actually we didn't want to go out, so we just ordered La Fountain.
Oh, yeah.
They're an Anthem, right?
Oh, so
and
good.
that is so good. And it was, I loved it because I just ordered it on my phone real quick. And then I just drove up to the window, right? And I got restaurant right there, just was able to take it home.
So good. What'd you get?
Chili Verde smothered burrito. Like that's what you get at La Fountain.
That chili verde's hard to beat.
It's amazing. I love that. That's a good place there. So supporting local, I mean, I go into Ace. Ace is always my first option, hardware, stuff like that. The click list at Smith's, right? We shop everything we focus on. We shop locally. We go down. After this, I'm going to the Fudge Co. Right. Yes. And get a couple of caramel apples for the birthday party and everything else. And then I'm torn with the dirty soda options. we have in Herriman, right? We got Twisted Sugar, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Quench It's great. They just celebrated a year.
Yeah, big year.
And so we stopped by there on Saturday. I was trying to peeling my sticker off, trying to get that tumbler. I wanted to win. So if you want a tumbler, call me. Maybe we'll see. Right? And then we got Fizz and all the other places, and their treats are good too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the mint brownies at Quench It are.
Yes.
They're tough. They're really tough to beat. All right. Second part of that question is, how do we attract more businesses, and how do we make the process easier to attract those businesses, decrease the setup, and still help them be able to thrive?
Yeah. So really just how that's being built out. I was talking this morning. I was talking to a business yesterday that is interested. They're looking for a place to move to. And so I kind of looked at the options, and I reached out to some people with the city. I even, you're in real estate, you kind of know what's going on. So
yeah,
I've reached out and I was like, hey, what are our options here? And there's really, if there's space available, it's kind of spoken for right now. Going down there is just, we need to, this land that's zoned commercially, we need to make sure that we're zoning the right type of commercial. They just did a planning commission just a couple of weeks ago, redid the commercial from C2 to C1.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Good wins.
And just make sure that we're getting those businesses in here, making sure that the builders, have that, or the investors are secure that, hey, these places are in demand and they're going to be leased out, and creating that, what businesses are there. One thing that I'm really focused on is, we're focused on sports tourism as a community. We need places for our kids to do their sports, but then we also can, we can make it more of an economic driver as well. One of the requirements for that is building a hotel, a huge, nice hotel. I would like to have some discussions with some of these hotel franchises and see what we can get out here, because I think there's a need for it. There's a demand for it. We're definitely ready. And, those are some of the things I'm looking forward to bringing.
I love that. Next couple of questions revolve around traffic and infrastructure. Traffic, as you would agree, is one of the top concerns for most of our residents. What can be done? How do we go about alleviating that burden for our residents? And what are some of the ideas that you have to be able to do that?
I really think we need to start having more seats at the table. One of the things that I've been out with cottage meetings, the thing that's been coming up a lot during this campaign process is bus routes.
Yeah.
And getting that out here. I think there's a fair amount of demand, because I see the on-demand UTA. Every time I leave my neighborhood, I see at least one of those vans. They're out here. There's ridership, and there's also concerns of people, how their people are getting there. We have the University of Utah and the Salt Lake Community College campus that just showed up. We're operating a university in Herriman City without a public transit system.
Yeah, it was a big no.
Something there like that's let's have let's get in those rooms and have a seat at the table. Have a seat at the table with UDOT, and let's talk about that and the east-west traffic. We got some big things happening where they're going to be putting that overpass over on 134th and kind of build out that Bangor Highway. That's going to impact our life down here. It's going to slow down traffic. A lot of people are trying to get to that road right there, and I think that's going to be closed down for a year. That east-west, it's going to change things for us a little bit.
Yeah,
we have to look on that with there's things that we can use with technology. Being in law enforcement, I've been able to see the Utah Traffic Operations Center and kind of how that works. There's things that we can do with technology on timing and whatnot, and just making sure that we're there at the table and saying, hey, how does this look? And are we doing that safely? And figuring those things out with just having the right seats at the table at the right time to make sure that we're doing what we can for our community out here.
Awesome. And you touched on it earlier with like the bus seating and things like that. Excuse me. But what are some of the other traffic options that you would like to see brought to the city?
traffic options.
Like mass transit or, development or other roads or.
So bringing that, like in road improvement, right? We got heavy winter. It tore up a lot of roads. We need to figure out how we're going to prioritize that with all the other things we need to do with our tax dollars.
Yeah.
We need to find other options with transit and improving on Mountain View Corridor. That's important to me. I don't know why in our little southwest corner and 5 mile stretch of Mountain View Corridor, we have 8 intersections with traffic lights. 8. The rest of Mountain View of the corridor has 7. I want to think, right? So in 5 miles, we have more it's like 2 per mile. And they're closer than that actually in parts of the city. And then the rest of it from South Jordan North, there's probably 1 every 2 miles. So we kind of focusing on that and building that infrastructure. I know it's coming, but waiting, 5 more years for that might be a little too late. I think there's some wiggle room and some discussions that can be had to maybe get those things here a little faster. Other things, again, bus. The city just proposed or just showed the plan for the eventual tracks line coming through Herriman and connecting down into Draper. That'll be good when it happens. That's coming in the future. I don't think that'll happen anytime that I'm in office, but that was definitely something that I would support and make sure that we're securing the right agreements so that when it's ready and we're ready to build that out, that it can just go with kind of a streamlined process. Let's make those decisions now. So when it's time, it's already done.
I like that. I like that. So next 2 questions revolve around the youth. The first question is from the Student Advisory Board, from Friends of Herriman. We've got 4 high schools with 6,000 plus students, but so much of space and activities are needed, right? A lot of our youth feel like they can't have any fun without getting in trouble or things like that. There's not really the avenues that maybe we had when we were younger. What can be done to provide our youth with more support, and also more activities and more opportunities for them to, have their fun and not necessarily always getting in trouble?
Yeah. You bring this up. I live in the Big Bend neighborhood. I think we are one of the only neighborhoods with the city park that has a pickleball court, and we have 1.
Yeah.
And that thing is used constantly. And you bring this up, a group of students, high school students, came, they live over Butterfield area, and they drove all the way to Big Bend to play pickleball. And they were bummed out because there was a line to use this court. And so for that, I would let's look at those operations. What spaces do we have, and where are we fitting those demands? I would like to, rally the community to put in some more pickleball courts, to put in some more volleyball courts, looking at those things, having more contests for the youth. Wellness and, having a good quality of life is important. And if we can have times where we can have fun at the park, or we can celebrate something, an outdoor pool probably would be beneficial for Herriman.
That sure would be.
Where can we put that? That type of stuff, bringing those types of services and whatnot and other activities to help our students and everyone that comes out here and to play. It is a lot different than, when we were kids. I remember coming out here 4-wheeling. I'm sure, I don't know if I want to incriminate myself. Statute of limitations is fine. But yeah, we're good. But that's what, the opportunities for that and getting out and just having fun.
I love it. So second part of the question comes from the Salt Lake Academy girls volleyball team who I coach. Mm-hmm. But sports are a growing program with a growing population. There is more and more needs for programs and development for our athletes. We know the rec center is completely full. We know that the recreation options are completely full all the time, but we know that our high schools still don't have enough court space, and there's not enough opportunity for these kids to play, whether it's tournaments, AAU ball, all of those things. What are the things that we can do as a community, and what are things that you are willing to do to support the growing athlete community and their athletic development?
So the parks and there's an agreement with the city. They're trying to work out the details right now with a big soccer complex with like 20 something build it out. It's going to be large, kind of the sports tourism type thing. With that, again, you mentioned volleyball. There's other things like that. Have you been down to DBAT? Like
it's that
place, like we're waiting, and it's not really it's a great facility and it's a great time, but like we're waiting. Like there's a demand. Like we could build bigger facilities. I want investors and developers to know there's a lot of opportunity out here.
There is
for us to invest, and we could build bigger sports centers. And I mentioned, let's look and see a pool. Not too long ago, I was on a study panel with through the school district. They had it was like a survey thing, and they had asked, where would a outdoor pool be beneficial in Herriman? And I was like, absolutely. Like we would go there all the time.
Yeah, all summer long.
Yeah. And this building out, getting makeshift park space. My kids like, softball and out there, and we have to travel, into other cities to go to games because everything here is just packed and full and whatnot. So the leagues that we're a part of aren't even in the Herriman. I want to focus on more of that and stay out here and bring up those facilities. I definitely would support that.
I love it. Okay, we're going to switch gears and go to the lightning round.
Oh, lightning round.
Here we go.
Okay.
First question. What is your favorite breakfast meal?
Favorite breakfast meal?
Yeah.
Favorite. Had to.
Last breakfast you're ever going to eat is this.
Last breakfast I'm ever going to eat is this. Well, this is tough. The original Pancake House, the 6 egg omelet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna eat that one day and it will kill me.
It probably just about mine, Chris. What is your favorite treat, candy, baked good? Your favorite treat?
Chocolate donut.
Chocolate donut.
Yes,
all right.
Yes.
If you could have a meal with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Living or dead and why? Probably my grandpa. He was the first grandparent to pass away. He passed when I was 9, and I just would like to say, hey, what do you think? I think about that a lot.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite holiday?
Ooh. This is rough. This is a rough one. Favorite holiday has to be the 4th of July.
That's the only correct answer.
Yeah,
it
really. Just something about 1776 and Go America and
firework, family food.
Yes. Yeah. I was actually we visited Washington, D.C. this last spring, and I was kind of researching. I was like, what does this town look like on the 4th of July? And I was like, there's a lot going on over here. We'll have to maybe make a trip out there sometime. So,
as somebody who's seen the 4th of July show there, it is a must. It is a must do.
Okay, for sure.
Books or movies?
Movies.
Okay, what's your favorite movie?
Grumpy Old Men.
I love it.
That's gonna be me. My best friend from my childhood lives out here as well. He moved out here a long time ago. He's been in the community for quite a bit, and I think we actually work together. I think we're gonna retire together, and I think ice fishing season will look just like that for us.
I love it. What's your favorite sport?
Oh man, sport. Well, it's World Series right now. Like the Rangers are going, right? We saw that last night.
That was a nuts game.
That was the game the night before that.
I was always glad when the Astros lose.
Yeah, that was crazy. But recently it's been football.
Football. What team?
Yeah. Utah. Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, that pig farmer looks good, man.
Yeah, Barnes. I think Barnes is going to do some good things for us. Straight out of, Utah, born and bred, just like us. Like we're good. I'm excited for this weekend too.
Walk on kid making Heisman moves, man. He's killing it.
He's going to be huge.
What is your favorite part about Herriman?
Oh, the minute we moved here, my kids started thriving. It's incredible to watch. Our kids were, where we were at in West Jordan. We loved that neighborhood. There's parts of that I absolutely miss, but out here we move in and there's kids running in. I mean, our first couple of weeks in my house, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Do your parents know that you're over at my house? Because they don't even know who I am. Like, kind of that protective parent type thing.
That Leo coming out of you.
But yeah, my kids, and just this is where I want to raise the kids. This is where family needs to be to raise a family. Like, it's just great. It's my kids are thriving. Other kids we're so many opportunities. Our schools out here are excellent. We have all the options in Herriman, and it's just I love it. It's amazing.
The sense of community here is pretty tough to beat.
Yes.
What is your favorite failure?
Failure.
Right? Because failure is never really a failure unless you let it be a failure.
Yes.
Usually it's something that because of this, it propelled you on to something else. So what is that failure for you?
Oh. This is deep.
Woo. I love this question.
Favorite failure. Oh, I failed a promotional test a couple of years ago. I just went in there thinking I knew all the answers, and in law enforcement, kind of how it's designed around government is you test for promotions and you get on lists. And I was pretty sure that I was going to make it, and I didn't get past round one. I answered the questions too fast.
Oh,
because I just figured I didn't slow down and read it. And so that's taught me to kind of really take time, make sure I'm understanding the perspective when I'm looking at an issue or looking at a question. Am I really seeing it from just how Chris sees it, or am I seeing it from how everyone else sees it? Or, like what is the right,
I love that.
What is the right answer? Like, that's the thing. And that was a big disappointment. Eventually, the next time I made it happen, but it's just kind of, yeah.
I love that.
Slow down and look at the perspective of what's being asked.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
You can't please everybody, so just make the best decision, and you're going to do what you're going to do. And if other people have a problem with it, they're going to have a problem with it.
Okay. What's the worst piece of advice you ever got?
Same. The worst piece of advice I've got. Should run for city council. No, that's not it. That's not it. The worst piece of advice is probably back in college. Just take this class and go here and do that. There was a lot of, I look back on those days and how impressionable it was for me. And I don't know, like college it was great. I learned a lot. I had a fun experience, but At the same time, I look at it and, what other things, no one told me that I could go to trade school, that I could learn, I could be an electrician or a plumber. No one really emphasized that. It was all about go to college. And I would say there's so many more opportunities out there. And so I would say that would probably be a lot of impressionable years where I made some things, and I look back at that and maybe, what does we all know what Officer Chris looks like. But what could Chris be an electrician? Could Chris be a plumber, something like that? I don't know.
I love that. That. Well, right. So the mission of Voices of Herriman is to be able to share voices, and we're so appreciative that you came on today to be able to share your voice. And
thank you for having me on.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And wish you the absolute best of luck.
Yes.
Moving forward. But before we end, we want to turn the time over to you for your voice and let you share your voice for the people of Herriman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Herriman, Chris Roberts again, running for City Council District 1. I want to be an influencer in the community. I want to make those decisions and just kind of help make sense of our growth, bring people to the table and how we're growing. What else are we doing for that? Wellness. I didn't mention this. De-escalation and crisis intervention. That's kind of where I've based my career on, focused on that a lot of it. I'm involved in that. But our wellness and our safety is very, very important to me. Also, how are we growing? Do we have the right infrastructure out here? And what are the things as we're meeting the demands for housing in Utah and Salt Lake County? Are we doing enough for our cities to support the infrastructure? I want those questions asked and answered with all the stakeholders. And lastly, I just want to make Herriman a place that it already is. And just as we grow and as we potentially double in size here pretty soon, that it's still a place where all of our children can thrive. I really want to focus on that. That's important to me.
I love that. Again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
You ready to sign off?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Herriman,
we got you. Hey, welcome everybody into Voices of Herriman. I know it looks a little bit different today. A little bit of scheduling conflicts, but we are so grateful to have our District 1 City Councilman, Jared Henderson, on today. Jared, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
You bet.
And so get started. Let's talk about this family of yours. You and your wife have been married for 25 years. That's an impressive feat in and of itself. What's been the trick? What's been the secret?
I don't know if anybody has the answer to that. I'm all ears. My wife is a very, very patient person, I think, to put up with me for over 25 years and all the crazy stuff I get myself involved in and time away from family and everything. But she's super supportive of everything I do, and likewise. And our focus has always been around, our family, which is a big reason why I've gotten involved in all of this. We love where we live and we don't want to have to move.
Yeah. And you've got the 3 kids, right?
Yep.
What are
we moved here. We moved to Herriman in 2009 when my youngest was 3 years old, and he's now a senior. He's now a senior at Herriman High School. So we've experienced the growth and change in schools and kind of everything in between.
I love that. Now you're in the financial planning industry. What kind of got you started into that, and why do you love that?
That's a great question. So I think the shortest answer would be that when growing up, we didn't have much. My dad worked 3 jobs just to support us and allow us to play youth sports and things. My parents had a super strong work ethic when it came time to go to school. I played soccer through competitive sports, soccer through college, had every injury known to man, and thought I was going to go into physical therapy. And then got to college. My parents told me that, look, we think you should go. Neither one of them, no one in my family, it's kind of that story. No one's gone to college. I was the first person in my immediate family to have a college degree, even a lot of extended family. But they told me early on, look, we want you to go. We think you need to, but we can't afford it. Fortunately, I got some, athletic scholarship money, but worked and paid my way through school, and through that process realized that, as I did an internship for physical therapy, realized that at that time, this is in the late 90s, I'd have to go to school as long as a doctor and make a lot less. And I wanted to improve my situation so my kids had it better than I did, right? That financial stability, et cetera. And it really drove my interest towards this field. And so now, as I tell people, I'm compensated to really help people understand the things that I've learned about finances.
I love that. Thank you. I love that. That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. And you talked about soccer. Soccer is a big hobby of yours. Not only were you an avid player, you're also an avid coach. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's a passion.
Yeah.
maybe an addiction. I'm a big Manchester United fan. If I show you around the rest of my office, there's jerseys and everything else. But I played, from the time that I was, probably 5 years old, and have stayed involved with my kids. So I now coach three different teams. An older one that I mentioned, my high schooler, his competitive team. We travel across the country, and then I'm coaching 2 younger teams, 8-year-olds. It's so rewarding. It's so much fun. It's more than just the sport, which I love, but it's, as we were talking a little bit earlier, I was kind of mentoring a newer coach and told him, look, it's the sports part of is just a little bit of this. Mm-hmm. Like you really become more of a surrogate parent and kind of a dominant male figure in their lives. And you're setting that example for them and helping them through a lot of other things, navigate life issues, a lot more than the sports. So it's super rewarding, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just a passion of mine.
I love it. I think addiction is probably a really accurate word when it comes to coaching, because it is way more about wins and losses, and way more about scholarships, like you said. Like, it is about it's about teaching kids life lessons that only the competitive environment can teach you.
Well, and that's something you and I chatted about, I think, before we started recording. I tell a lot of parents, through the phases of their kids, experience, that if you're doing this because you want them to get a scholarship, if that's the drive, I'll tell you what, take the fees that you're paying for all of this. Let me put it in an education account for you, and you'll pay for their education 4 times over. That shouldn't be the reason that you're doing this. If it happens for them, fantastic. My son's going through that process right now as a senior with the recruiting and stuff. That's great. But I really would have been able to pay for his education 4 times over if we put that money towards that. It should be more about making sure they're involved in something, right? And they're busy, idle hands, right? They need to be engaged with something, and it teaches them so many things, right? Life skills. How to set goals and achieve things individually, work as a team, adversity, right? Coach will make decisions you don't agree with. The referee definitely is going to make decisions you don't agree with, and there's nothing you can do.
Especially in soccer.
Right? Yeah, you can't go online and complain about the ref and get him to change his opinion. Mom and dad can yell all they want, but you have to deal with that adversity and learn how. So there's just so many, life skills that you'll learn, in my opinion, through a good competitive sport environment that just set you up for life.
Absolutely. Now let's jump into the political side of things. What kind of, you've been in office for almost 8 years now. What was the process? What were the events that kind of jump started you saying, you know what, I need to run for office?
Oh man. So I've been told not to say this, because, for several reasons, but I was very reluctant to get involved, right? If you're busy I'm a certified financial planner. I run my own business. And if you run your own business, it is way more work than a 40 an hour week job, right? Yeah. So it's super time consuming, and it's difficult. I was reluctant to, but the basic story is this. And I've told this a few times. I think I went through some of the basics at the candidate debate thing. But we moved in 2009. We live over by the cemetery. So at that time, that was the border. So we about 6400 west is my backyard. And that was the border of the city and unincorporated county. And open field. We did our homework when we bought the place, and then researched what would happen. Eventually, something's going to be built there. What's the process? What do I need to be aware of? So I kind of knew all that going in. My family has farming roots, and I kind of know the seasons and the process, what goes on out there. So in about 2012, 11, 12, we started seeing some activity out there. So I started making phone calls to the city and the county, and was told by both of them, oh, no, it's the city. No, it's the county. It's not us. There's nothing going on. And then literally got a letter on a Saturday that they're from the city, that there's a planning commission meeting that Thursday to annex 300 acres from the county into the city at an average density of what I found out. They didn't put this on the letter. They just said it was R210. And it took me 4 or 5 days. It wasn't easily accessible on the website. I got stonewalled at the city. You have to talk to one specific person to tell you what it is. Turns out it was an average of 8 units an acre. An average, 300 acres. So their plan was obviously to just put a bunch of apartments here and then count a park and whatnot, and lots of high density. The plan they attached was just blank. They can literally put it anywhere. When I finally got through to somebody at the city, they said, well, and I said, so they could just consolidate and put all these apartments right behind our neighborhood. Oh, they could, but they wouldn't do that. Like, how do you know they wouldn't do that? So as I tried to get information, I felt like I was stonewalled. I was given misinformation, and even flat out lied to through that process. So of my own accord, I found out that because my house is right on the back of the neighborhood and borders that area, we were one of only 9 homes out of 125, 150, something like that were notified that this is happening. Nobody knew about it. Literally no one knew about it. So of my own accord, time and money, I made copies of that letter. I wrote my own statement, and I want to say I made close to 1,500 copies. I grabbed my kids and family and friends, whoever, and we went door to door. My neighborhood, knocked on every single door, and I branched out to surrounding neighborhoods, knocking on doors and leaving flyers. From Saturday to Thursday, we ended up with several hundred people at that meeting. And from there, we organized ourselves. My statement then was, look, we're not against growth. None of us would be here if it weren't for growth. But as residents and taxpayers, we want to have a say in how this is done. So from there, that was really what began the responsible growth movement. I asked for volunteers who wants to do something about this, and we ended up with 20 to 30 people who were committed to it. We divided into committees. This committee looks at public safety, schools, water, all the different issues that affect it. Did our research. I'll never forget the city. So all of a sudden, then I got started getting phone calls from council and mayor, et cetera, who had kind of ignored all of our emails and calls, wanting to know what's going on, because they were getting calls from the UPD at the time, the school district, the county, et cetera, because there's all these people calling and asking questions about this thing. We found out they'd been working on this for several years, and had agreed in principle, basically kind of, in my opinion, behind closed doors. And then when we asked questions, hid it from us. So that's what spurred it. We got involved in all of that. We actually the city, this is the crux of it. So if you're going to edit this and bring it down, this is the crux of it. We organized all of that.
I love
went
it.
To the city, took that information to the city. And I'm not joking. The city, the council, the administration, et cetera, basically put their hands up and said, you don't understand. We have to do this. We have to give them what they want. It was 3,000 units on 300 acres. 3,000 units, like 200 or 2,889, something like that. You don't understand. We have to do this, because if we don't, they'll go to South Jordan, and then South Jordan will build all those, and we'll have no say. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. There has to be some rationale here. There shouldn't be just this blank slate that they can do literally whatever they want. So we took that committee. I got 4 or 5 people to represent kind of the larger group. We went and met with the developer. They agreed to meet with us, and we worked with them and came to agreement to reduce the density at that time under 2,000. Since then, with a few other agreements, I think we're down to about 1,700. and we put in zoning conditions. So if you live in that area, so this is kind of Creek Ridge, west of 6,400, and any of those homes out there, we put in zoning conditions in those areas that they have to be single family homes. There'll be any density that they have will be pushed towards the major arteries, 118th, etc. So we accomplished all that as a group of residents. Belleville took it to the city, and the city went, "Oh, well, this is great." And I'll never. So, what this boils down to, the day that I decided I had to really get involved and maybe run for office, was at that deciding meeting. Afterwards, the mayor at the time came up to me, put his arm around me, and said, "Thank you so much, Jared. You accomplished what we couldn't." And I just went, "You got to be kidding me!" I went home that night, and my wife was was happy we'd been involved in this. She's like, "Oh, we accomplished such a great thing, and everybody loves what we've done." And I looked at her, I'm like, "We have to move." She's like, "What are you talking about? Look at what we just did." I'm like, "You don't understand. This is what he said to me." I mean, if that's the way they approach this and the way they've been making decisions, there's so much. Look at all this empty space, not just around where we live, but the rest of the city. If this is how things are done, we just have to pull up stakes and get out of here, which many of my neighbors did. Anybody I think since that time, in 10 years, our neighborhood has probably turned over at least 50%. Right? I mean, a lot of people we're just out of here. So we made the conscious decision of either we have to continue this and really get to where we can, affect change, or we got to go. And we made the decision that, gosh, we just love where we live. We love the history of the city. We live right next to Old Town, and we're kind of indoctrinated with the history of the city right away when we came in. And so it's been a huge sacrifice time. Like I said, time away from family is so much time and energy, and such a sacrifice for the family. I mean, I'll admit my health has suffered because of all the extra time and stress, etc. But we've accomplished so much. And at this point, for me, it's about continuing what we started. I think I might have used this word before, but I feel a weight of responsibility to see it through, to finish what I started. And I told my neighbors that I would represent them and accomplish these things. And we've done a lot, but we're so close to really getting some important things over the line. I don't want to leave it a chance, because it's a big learning curve to get in and really understand how this stuff works and how you can affect change. I'll say it took me probably the first 2 years to really understand the inner workings of the city, the government in general, all the entities at play, to be able to change things.
Is that kind of why you want to run again then, is just to, like you said, see it through? Is that kind of the drive?
Yeah, my motivation has not changed. It's the same thing. I mean, we've accomplished a lot, but there's just so much more to do, because we've grown so much. This next 4 or 5 years, if we can see a few things over the line, then I'll feel good. I'll feel pretty good about where we're at and what we've accomplished, and the major things I can say we've changed, and I've helped through the responsible growth effort and that organized group. I've helped get other good people in place and feel like we move on. But right now there's several things that I can't walk away from. I feel like I owe it to people, all the time and sacrifice my family has made. If I were to step away now and those things don't happen, I would regret it and feel like I let people down.
Absolutely. That's a fair sentiment. So I got a couple questions that came from the community. And the first one has to do with the local economy. The question boils down to this: is what are you doing personally, you and your family, to support the local business leaders and the local business owners, local businesses and local business owners? And what is kind of the expectation, or what's some of the things that you think that the community should do to follow your example in those efforts?
Well, there's a couple major things. And I'll kind of answer, at least to me, in two parts, right? So you asked about me and my family personally, and then I'll say from kind of a broader perspective, I think people need to be educated on how it works, right? So we talk about local economy, and specifically Herriman businesses. For my family and I really stress shopping, eating and doing things in our city limits as much as we can to support those businesses. Even, Amazon deliveries and those things are great and convenient, and that tax revenue is better. I can go into some of those details. We get that local option. But most of the businesses that we have here are locally owned. They're smaller stores and restaurants and establishments. So really, especially my wife and I, if and when we go out, I don't go out a whole lot, but my wife and son do, and I'll accompany them, but I stress to them all the time, here's where the borders are. Right? Have that girls' lunch, and my boy, take your friends when you go from Herriman High School, go north, right? You got Anthem in there, but don't go on the north side of 118th. Right? Yep. Do what we can here. On the other side of things, for me personally, and from the city point of view and the responsible growth stuff, it's more to educate people on how it works, right? And what it means to your actual tax dollars in the city itself. And I didn't understand this until I got involved in all of this, but in Utah, it's called the local sales tax option, right? It's 1% of the sales tax. Half of that percent goes directly to the city where it was originated. So the example I use with my friends and neighbors all the time is, if you shop at, say, Smith's, there's a new one closer to where I live on 118th, right? That's in South Jordan. It's on their side of the line. So they get that 0.5%. If you shop at the one in Herriman, right, 134th, that's on the Herriman side of the street. The opposite side of the street with Sonic and all, where all of those businesses are, that's Riverton. Yeah. Most people don't know that, or realize that. And if that dollar's, that 0.5% stays. So when we talk about, say, larger scale commercial entities, Costco, and we can talk about those sorts of things. When we talk about the dollars from those, that's that local sales tax option, that 0.5%. The other 0.5% goes to the state, and then they redistribute it based on population. So, that's what's at stake with commercial dollars. So literally, that's the best example I can think of. If you shop at Smith's, the one that you shop at matters if you're giving your dollars to Herriman or South Jordan.
Yeah. That is such a huge thing. Amazon, right? Amazon, I think, it's been several months. That's our number one contributor to our sales tax revenue.
That's been a huge win from the state level to be able to get that. So, because before it was just all going to the state and based on population. Now technology is advanced to where they're tracking where it's delivered, because that's where the effect is. So kind of the logic behind that local option is the wear and tear on the streets and law enforcement and all the services that need to be provided to support that. So if Amazon's delivering to my house, it's driving on our streets and wearing the road out, right? That local option should go to the city.
Absolutely, 100%. So what? Obviously, there's a push, and the mayor and the council have done a good job. We know there's a lot of things in work bringing new businesses. We can't talk about all of them yet, but it's sure going to be exciting in the next couple of years. What are some of the efforts that can be made or should be made to work on trying to attract more of these tax generating businesses into our city?
So to me, this is another hot button for me, and education is key, right? So I get asked all the time, even by neighbors who should know this by now, right? They've been involved in this journey, but we're a capitalist society, right? These businesses don't have to locate here. I affectionately call Herriman the cul-de-sac of Salt Lake County. We're tucked up in the corner. Nobody comes here unless they live here. There's no employment centers, right? There's no big draws yet. We're working on a few things I'll touch on in a minute. But by the vast majority, you're not coming here unless you live here or you know someone who lives here, right? So it's most brick and mortar businesses. It really is about that traffic count, like how many people are coming by and what time of day, what type of traffic is it? If it's simply commuter traffic, they're all going one way in the morning and all one way at night. We talk about restaurants. Every single restaurant tells us, like sit down restaurant, we need a daytime population. We need employment centers out here that will support lunchtime. We can't survive on dinner alone. So people complain about we have so many fast food restaurants, but that's why, right? We don't have employment centers. And by the same token, we can't force them to locate here either. It has to make business sense for them, right? So we can go into I could talk about this stuff forever and all the details, but that has a lot to do with transportation, right? Just simply our location is difficult there. So I'll pick on one name in particular that comes up somewhat often. What can we do to get a Trader Joe's? And my answer to him was, well, if you love Trader Joe's, you really need to reach out to them and tell them you want them to locate here. From a city point of view, we have an economic development department. We attend, various events and conferences and things, and we promote the city in general with all the population data and transportation corridors and properties that are zoned commercial, but we don't own the property, right? There's only so much we can do. We have to get a property owner who's willing to sell to that kind of business. I apologize. I would go off on a tangent and all these things, but with something that kind of two projects that are really important to me that I've had maybe even the primary hand in. Number one is, say, the Auto Mall, 80 acres right next to Mountain View corridor. It was going to be apartments, more high density housing. That's what was entitled. And I want to say this was right prior to when I was first elected. I'd have to look back and say, I can't remember. At the time, I was not on the council, but I think I might have just been elected as in those few months, close to that. But I was attending the work meeting. They were finalizing the master development agreement with that whole Miller Crossing area is what it was. And their big thing is they wanted apartments, and it was all apartments and townhomes, 80 acres of it. They were entitled, but they were working through this master development agreement, and they wanted some other things. And just as a resident, someone who was kind of council elect, I didn't understand all the rules. You're not supposed to talk in those meetings. And I just butted in and said, because their argument was it's not commercially viable. Yeah. Every one of these developers and property owners, they make a quick buck and they make more money right now on housing. That's just the truth of it. Right. And so every single one of them, when they come in, they want more and more housing because they can flip it and make that money quickly. Commercial stuff will take time to develop. And that's really the only lever, in my opinion, that the city really has to pull is zoning. So if it's already zoned as commercial, we have to keep it that way. That's the only thing we can do to force that property owner to bring businesses in, right? If it's not zoned commercial, if it's zoned residential, we can't force them to change it. They have property rights. I can go into all the legal
Constitution,
matters,
yeah.
Right. So in that case, my suggestion to them was at the time, because they were wanting to, when they request a zoning change, that allows the city to change it. Right. So in this case, the property owners requesting that it be changed to this, but that gives the city the opportunity through that process to make a case for what the city needs. And we're able to find a middle ground. So my suggestion to them was, if you're saying it's not commercially viable, I understand that maybe right now, at that time, 10 years ago, there were half as many homes out here, half as many people. Daybreak hadn't expanded yet, but it will be. That's a freeway corridor. Any freeway frontage is going to be viable. So why wouldn't you put in this agreement? I mean, this is several hundred acres that they have to build from the other side first, right? They have to start at the other end and give this area the ability to show that viability and put in a clock. Look, if it's from the date that they extend that Main Street road, give the city, 5 years or so to bring enough interest for you guys to do it, and put some incentives in there. And they took that suggestion, and that clause is what allowed us to get 80 acres of commercial rather than more apartments. So preserving those areas and finding ways to do that is huge. But that's the biggest thing I think most people don't understand is what the city actually can and can't do. We can't force businesses to come here. So we go out and talk to them. We lobby all the time. We try to connect those businesses with those property owners and do what we can. The only thing the city can do financially to incentivize them to come here is to give away the one thing that we need from them, which is that local sales tax option. Yeah. That's the only thing we can give to them financially to incentivize them to locate here. And so with the auto mall, we've done that. We've given, you can look at the agreements, a certain percentage for a certain number of years as an incentive for them to come in. So we'll do a lot of those things, but that's the only real financial lever that we have. So we're working hard on, to connect those parties together and do what we can to facilitate it. But my big push has been and will continue to be, preserving that zoning. Now, the other part, this is probably more than you want to know, but this has been my big push. And I'm not good about bragging about or boasting about some of these things, but I mentioned a big part of his location, right? People don't come out here unless you live here and know someone who lives here. Well, how can we change that? Two big property owners to the west, Rio Tinto, and the group that has Olympia Hills. We had big interest after big interest from big employment centers that wanted to come out there. We're talking like 3,000 acres that those two entities control, and they flat out said no, they want to do housing. We couldn't force them to change zoning, so we kind of lost out on that part. But the other part that we have is we do have our proximity to potential recreation, right? We're developing our trails, working with Salt Lake County, with Yellow Fork, Rose Canyon, Butterfield to improve some of those things. So from day one, I've said, look, we have to be realistic about our location. We need people to come out here to do something, right? If it's recreation, right? Spend some money here while they're doing that, and then they go home to their city to get their services. Like that's the way that we can kind of balance this out a little bit. So we've worked really hard on a lot of those things. Open space. So I mentioned that initial project, 300 acres. With big projects like that, they have to donate 20% open space. We required as residents, so we don't. We have the trails and things in place, but we don't need the little pocket parks and things that really just cost a lot of money for the city to maintain. What we need is contiguous open space for usable open space, right? Whether it's organized sports or anything. As a soccer coach, we leave the city every day to go practice. There's nowhere. There aren't enough fields available. So we're leaving the city to go practice and spending our money in other cities and coming back. I know a lot of people face that. So that 40 acres, we're working with Salt Lake County to put in an athletic complex, right? There'll be 6 to 7 fields on that 40 acres. We're this close to getting the county finalized on that financing. And we're trying to work with Rio Tinto and South Jordan to donate another 40 to 60, 80 acres for a complete complex of 20 plus fields. RSL, we've worked with RSL. They're on board. We want to host tournaments, bring things in. There's hotel interest from all those things. So looking at ways that we can leverage what we do have to incentivize people to come out here and support those businesses, right? And then go home for their services.
Absolutely. And you talked about traffic. Our traffic is probably the number one concern. That's our next set of questions is what can we do? What are some of the steps we can do? What are the rooms we need to get into? What are the shareholders and stakeholders that we need to get involved to try to alleviate some of the burden of traffic? With the cul-de-sac mentality of like, hey, we got people going one way most of the time during the day, and then the other way at night.
The biggest issue, I think all of us know this, is east-west, right? North-south is being worked on. Bangerter, Mountain View, we've made, Councilwoman Orrin and I really were kind of pat ourselves on the back. Most people don't know this, but we were the driving force in getting the legislature to agree to actually finish 134th and 27th. When that bill came out a few years ago, they were pushing money towards their pet projects for daybreak transportation. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And we went, wait a second. Look at just Bangerter. Those two overpasses are crucial. This is crazy out here. We've got to fix that infrastructure, right? The downstream infrastructure before you're adding more out here. And that's what I kind of try to educate people on, is everything that they do out here, all this density they're pushing creates a compounding effect downstream, right? These roads were never designed to hold that much traffic. Now you're increasing, and that's the problem with high density housing, right? Is you're increasing the number, but you're not fixing the downstream supporting infrastructure. And I mean, so density itself to me is not the problem. It's that the supporting infrastructure is not being upgraded to support it. And that is at a broader level, county, mainly the state. Like the legislature is forcing all these things on us with density, but they aren't putting the resources towards those roads. So we've worked hard to do what we can for those bigger projects, like getting Bangor, Mountain View, east-west. I'm a broken record. Every chance I get, east-west is the biggest issue. We're the cul-de-sac. There are 2 roads in and out of town, guys, 126 and 134th. Those are the 2 main arteries. And we're going to double our population and expect that gets better as it is. So, I mean, for me personally, I've those that know, I've paid attention, know I've worked tirelessly towards that. We've worked towards getting UDOT to take over those roads, so they're paying for the maintenance rather than the city. And they can upgrade those roads and do all those things. Because I mean, we look at your taxes. There's no tax for roads, right? There, like we're scraping for that money from that local sales tax option, et cetera. To
does
just
that come out of the general fund as well, or is that
there are some maintenance funds that we qualify to get from the state and the county, but it's nowhere near what's needed. So the rest of it, it comes from the general fund, our discretionary money. The example I use all the time, I've been trying for 8 years now to get restrooms put in at the cemetery, right? I go by there every day and there's funerals and I see kids and adults peeing on the fence and right. It's the elderly people without anywhere to take care of them. It's $150,000 and I can't get it up the project list because there's so many other things where we need more for all those things. So we're doing what we can there. East-West is the biggest problem. So we worked with those that paid attention. I got with Mayor Staggs in Riverton and we created that Southwest Coalition of Riverton, Herriman, Bluffdale, West Jordan, South Jordan, Copperton. Got funding for a study. Took it to WFRC, the county, and the state, and we're able to get some of the long-term plans changed to include some improvements to those roads. One of which that I'm going to continue to push for is there needs to be an east-west express connection from Mountain View to Bangor, yep. Right? Whether that's 134th, 126, 126 looks more viable, but the price tag, just think about that, 126 from Bangor to Mountain View. It's what, a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles right there.
Yeah.
$1 billion to do basically a 2-lane, kind of like the Alpine Expressway. To me, that's what's needed there. That's obviously beyond Herriman's capacity, and we've got to work with all of those stakeholders to do it. And it's a long process. It's got to get on the plan. It's got to get the political will and the funding. So we're constantly working on things like that and doing what we can. As the city, 134th, right, was 2 lanes. We expanded these, took off some of the shoulder and made it 3 lanes where we can. So we're always looking at those things, but our location is our location and those arteries are what they are. So we're constantly looking for ways to improve it and partner with those that can actually get it done.
So you talk about partnering, right? So it feels like that Herriman has maybe not had as much success getting into the rooms where these decisions are made, like you talked about, just like in the beginning of the way you got started, right? Like it's been hard for us to get into those rooms with those stakeholders, whether it's UDOT or UTA or things like that. Maybe you can just educate us on what that process looks like, what steps we've taken, and what steps have got to happen in the next 4 years, with this being like a real critical 4 years for us.
How much time did you say we have?
Give me the Cliff Notes version, I guess.
Oh my gosh! So what people, if you don't know me, if you pay any attention, you'll find out is I want to I've worked to change things from the inside out and get in those rooms and find out what the process is and work through it. But I'm not a politically motivated person. And unfortunately, most of the people in those rooms are. A lot of I'd say the majority of the legislature is involved in residential development. They make their money building high density homes, and that's their focus. And they want to and quite frankly, I'll say the people in those rooms, the decision makers at higher level, state, county, especially, we saw it with Olympia Hills. They don't really, in my opinion, they don't care as much about areas that they don't live in or they don't go to. So again, our location, the cul-de-sac, they don't come out here, so they don't really care about it. They don't see the problems or understand what they are. Every time we get someone to come out here, they go, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought it was. The developers are always up here in Capitol Hill telling us that Herriman is forcing us to build half-acre lots, and they think that we're, stymieing the growth when it's the complete opposite. It's a total mess because they've put all that in there and haven't given us the infrastructure. So I would tell you that it's not that we haven't been in the rooms or been in the conversation. It's that those decision makers don't care what's going on out here, right? I mean, 10 years ago, when I got involved in all this, Herriman's population was 20,000 versus South Jordan's 100,000, right? And again, the cul-de-sac, they don't come out here. Now we're 60,000. Crazy amount of growth, right? And you see all those issues. So we're in those rooms, always have been. The key to getting some of these things done is what I just mentioned. Whether it's Bankit or getting UDOT to take over, is shining a light on what's happening here and linking arms with our neighboring cities and finding kind of that common ground where we can work together, right? Several voices together is a lot stronger than just our one. So I in particular worked really hard towards some of those things. We've seen some progress, but I mean, we are the cul-de-sac, and it's hard to get any attention if you're just, saber rattling and stomping your feet and saying, hey, look at this. We've got to work with our neighbors and find those common interests to bring them out. So things like the athletic complex, things like RSL, things like recreation, the canyons, etc. If they have an interest in those things, then they're more likely to put some resources towards the infrastructure to support them. And that's what we're starting to see.
Yeah, collaboration needs to be, instead of being a hiss word and the political circus, it needs to be like a statement word. Like, this is what we do. We collaborate with those around it. So
need to build consensus, and they have to care about what's going on out here. So, like I said, they have to have an interest. So we have to partner with them in a way that it benefits them.
Absolutely,
those things.
Absolutely. All right, so switching gears just a little bit, got a question from the Student Advisory Board of Friends of Herriman. Their question is, with 4 high school and almost 6,000 high school students, there's just not a lot of space or activity for them to do things, right? Like, you and I, when we were kids, right, we could get away with doing a lot more things, right? And we're not providing really the outlet for the physical health or even the emotional, mental health. Understanding this is necessarily like a political, right? Like, we're not going to create laws around these things, but what are some of the things that the city can do, or some of the things that you're passionate about that can help our youth have the support that they need?
Oh, well, as I've shown you, you ask these questions and I will go on for forever about all these things. Again, there's kind of a couple layers to it. What can we do, and and how can we get others to help us do it? I beg people all the time, please look at your property tax, right? The vast majority of your property tax goes to the school district and the county. And I'll just give you this quick number. This is my personal property tax, $7,196.47. Of that, $119.17 goes to Herriman City. I'll send it to you. Please look at it. That's what it is.
That's about right. That's a small percentage.
$2,597 to Jordan School District. Salt Lake County, with all of its various entities on here, $1,500 to $1,800 without adding it all up. I mean, times that by the number of households. Salt Lake County itself is receiving anywhere from $15 to $20 million in property taxes from Herriman residents. Tell me what services are located in our cul-de-sac versus our surrounding.
Certainly not
neighbors.
The rec center, but
right. So, I'll call out 2 things, right? So you could say rec center and the library. We don't have any big regional parks. That's one of the reasons that I think they're really willing to work on that athletic complex with us. Yeah. And that's going to be I mean, just that first phase of it, I want to say I have that here. Yeah, that first phase, just to build those first 6 to 7 fields, is going to be $36 million that the county can put back here. That sounds like a lot, but I just told you that they're receiving about $20 million a year from Herriman, right? And that goes towards all the various programs that they have countywide, et cetera. But for our residents, like how are those tax dollars being served here? That $119, like how can we pay for roads, water, parks, all of those things, and then duplicate efforts that we're already paying taxes for? So youth programs, senior programs, et cetera, we're paying those taxes to the county and state and other entities. So a big push, and Sherry Orn's we all represent the council, each of us on different boards and committees and things. Sherry's been with the youth council. 2 of my 3 kids have been involved with that. They do a great job. Destiny runs it on the city side. Great way for kids to get involved and understand how these things work and bring those resources. But they're always looking for ways to partner with the county and say, look, we have a growing need out here, a growing population. We need the space. We need the programs in this area. It's not really feasible anymore to expect them to go to South Jordan and Riverton and other areas to the north and east, just because it's traffic is so bad. It's like logistically impossible to try to participate in those things. So we're working towards bringing a lot of those things here and support from the city side. Unfortunately, we just don't have the funding, and frankly, I don't think the city itself will ever have the funding. But we need to work through our representation on those different boards and taxing entities to bring those services out here. And they're starting to listen, right? That we're getting some critical mass, 20,000 to 60,000 residents, and all the recreation and other, they're seeing the need, and that we're willing to work with them. So we need to take what we have, which is our proximity to recreation, some of those open spaces. We're never going to have the money to build that 40-acre park, right? Several other parks and opportunities, we're just not going to. When it comes to sports, there's different leagues and things we can partner with, right? You mentioned volleyball, baseball, soccer. They all have fees they're collecting. They're looking for space, and they're willing to partner with us. If we have a park, 5 acres, there's a baseball entity that we're working with them, right, to bring that in. Talking about them, I'll switch to kind of the mental health side. I don't want to get too personal or give too much away or betray confidences, but one of my kids has really struggled. We've dealt with the suicide thing and lots of other things. It's real problems. Most people, unless you've dealt with it directly, it's tough to understand. Gosh, without getting emotional, the real need that's there in our community. Things have gotten a bit better with some of the school district programs and things, but support from again, private public partnerships. There's only so much that the city can do, but we can leverage our resources. The old city hall building, we're looking at bringing in some county programs there and having place for youth. It's just a matter of where's the funding come from, but we need to support as much as we can on the city side, but on a personal side, right? Each individual, if you haven't experienced it yourself, I guarantee that there's people in your neighborhood that need that help.
Yeah. But
my experience, we're not going to go out and broadcast to everybody what we're going through and the help that we need. So I don't know what the answer is, but we need to. There needs to be better awareness and better resources for sure.
Well, we send our love. We support. I hope there's anything we can do. We're here to help, because it is a difficult thing. You talked about the sports programs. That's the second question that comes from my volleyball team at Salt Lake Academy. Again, it's lack of space, right? Lack of space. The rec center, the programs are completely full for club volleyball. Our top clubs are either in North Salt Lake or they're all the way down to Linden. And we're trying to build one here, right? Soccer, same thing. Baseball, same thing. And we're coming, right? We're making a lot of progress. This regional park is a big thing. What are some of the other things that we can do to support the growing number of athletes, the recreational programs up into the competitive AAU programs? What can we do? What are some things we create as a city to be successful?
As far as, youth sports go, to me, the biggest, being involved in, I'm really involved in the soccer side of things. Like I said, I coach 3 teams, and I leave the city every single day to go coach those teams. I cannot find a reliable place, space. You go to any park in the evening, whether it's soccer, lacrosse, football, whatever it's just every park is overrun. And so I literally leave the city. What I'm looking towards is the one thing that we don't have, as I keep saying, we don't have the money, but what we do have as a result of some of these developments, I mentioned the 20% open space, we do have some parks. And since kind of the responsible growth got involved, that was one of the tenets of our responsible growth is, look, we need usable open space. We need to hold these developers accountable and give us true open space that helps offset or support that density, right? So we've gotten larger usable space that need to be developed, but we don't have. So we have some of the acreage for that, but we don't have the money to build it. So we're looking to partnerships. Keep mentioning the athletic complex, because that's huge. And if we can get South Jordan and Rio Tinto to agree on the next phases, that'd be a huge economic impact as well. But there's lots of other areas where we've got 5 acres, 7 acres, and we can put in a couple of fields. But each field, one like full-size soccer field where you could play lacrosse and football and rugby. We're talking $2 million to develop that field. That's 2.5 acres for a full-size field. $2 million, right? Whether there's a little bit difference between natural grass and turf, but not a ton actually. So we need help with that. So we're looking at those partnerships with Utah Youth Soccer Association. We've reached out to the football organizations, rugby, lacrosse, etc., and multi-use. Can we get help from those organizations to put these in place and enter into long-term lease agreements with them? Look, we have the space, we don't have the money. If you have the money to build it, we'll enter an agreement that you get to use it for, these hours, these days, and the rest is open for public use. So we're looking for all those kinds of things. The indoor spaces are a lot more difficult, right, for the winter sports, because the buildings are just so much more expensive. So we're looking. I mentioned the baseball. For soccer, we rent out these the multi-use business parks, right, where you see the dance academies. We rent those out, to play inside. So trying to connect those groups with those entities to have those, because it's one thing to have the open space outside, but as you can see, the weather's turning, and for 3, sometimes 4 months or more of the year, we're frozen out, and all our kids need something to do, right? They've got to have somewhere to go to pursue these things, whether it's sports or other, clubs and activities. So if we can partner with schools and make more efficient use of their gyms, right? If they would open that up and rent them out more, businesses that are seeing that there's a demand for that space and a way to make money, and we can connect them with those entities, we'll keep working towards all that.
Right. And tournaments, man. Yeah, we can start hosting tournaments out here, really utilizing some of our skills.
Get that 1% here.
Right. Okay. Switching gears up a little bit, going to a lightning round. Got some fun questions to ask to learn more about you, Mr. Councilman. First off, what is your favorite breakfast meal?
Well, I'm old now and I have some health problems. My favorite breakfast meal used to be really hearty breakfast, right? Sausage and bacon and pancakes. And I used to make, when my kids are younger, we called it the mountain man breakfast, right? Putting a big pot of potatoes and carrots and onions and sausage and all that kind of stuff. Now that I'm old and my kids aren't here to eat breakfast and I've got health issues, it's the protein shake.
That's a stage in life that I recognize that. I empathize with that. What is your favorite treat or candy or baked good?
I don't have a real sweet tooth. I don't do candy and that kind of stuff, but I have a serious weakness for ice cream.
Yeah, I love it.
That is an Achilles heel for me.
If you could have a meal with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh man. Well, this is on a totally personal note. I mentioned I'm a huge Manchester United fan.
Yeah.
It would have to be Sir Alex Ferguson. If you don't know anything about him, probably the best, not just soccer coach, but one of the best coaches in general in the world. And I mean, I could show you around my office and see everything I've got. Have every book of these. Just an amazing person. What he accomplished in the way that he did, his focus on, he calls, in Britain they call it graft, but hard work, right, and commitment and dedication, and what the characteristics he looked for in people to build his organization, his team. Just, I would give anything to sit down with that man.
That would be a treat for sure. What's your favorite holiday?
Holiday? Any day where I can just relax and not have to go do something. As if you know me, I'll definitely say I'm more of an introvert, and on the kind of Asperger's end of the spectrum, I do pretty good one-on-one conversations, but big groups, not for me. Even family gatherings. COVID was great because I didn't have to do as many parties and things. I enjoy my family and friends for sure. But any holiday where I can just hang out at home, right? And all the things I'm involved with, if I can just relax and be at home and with my family and the dogs, it'd be great.
That's a good one. Books or movies? Which do you prefer?
Well, I'm kind of strange. I do both. I read a lot. Same thing I show you around. Nonfiction. I read biographies and history. I think it's so much more fascinating. And the stories, favorite authors, David McCullough, Chernow, etc. Look at all those. But movies are great too. I love suspense, mystery. Like it drives my wife crazy because I'm sitting there saying, "This is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen." And the ones that are best is when you don't know, right? Like trying to figure out, and it takes crazy turns. I love those kind of.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh man. Well, having said that, I mean, once you watch a mystery, you know what's going to happen. It's kind of tough. But the remake of Orient Express is fantastic for that genre. But then I'm a big James Bond fan.
Yes,
I love the Bond films.
All right. Who's your favorite Bond?
Oh, that's a tough one too, because then you're going to get into it, and they're different, and they're
very different.
The subtleties and things, but gosh, I really like Brosnan in the first couple, but Connery. I mean, how can you not say Connery?
There's only one right answer there. That's it. What's your favorite part about Herriman?
My favorite part about Herriman really is just the community feel that we're still maintaining. Right, it's been more difficult. I mentioned when we moved in, we lived right next to Old Town. And we were literally indoctrinated in the history of the area. One of our first activities was going on a wagon ride and past, the different historical markers and telling us the history, and fell in love. I mentioned I'm a history buff, right? Yeah. So I fell in love with all of that. And then as I've gotten involved in all of this last 10 years and met people and tried to, support that awareness and kind of pride in our community. When it comes down to, you look at social media and all those things, there's a lot of snarkiness and all this that sort of stuff. But under that layer, we have so many good people that are supporting so many good programs. And if somebody needs something, we support those people. So I just love that part of it. And I said, we love where we live. That's a huge part of it.
True. What's your favorite failure? Now, when I say failure, when you're thinking about that, right? Like, I feel like I got to caveat this question because I feel like failure is like a massive opportunity for success if we view it in the right way. Because we never really grow until we really have true adversity. So, what is the thing that maybe was the most adverse in your life that you're willing to share that really propelled you to be the man, the husband, the councilman, the person that you are today, the father?
I'd say there's probably two main. Well, God, there's several main things, right? One is just being a father and family and your kids. Like that's we got married early and had kids early. So like my kids are like 10 years older than my friends' kids and things, and And early on they would ask, well, what's the difference in life? I'm like, when you have kids, you no longer do what you want to do when you want to do it. Like everything you do is for them. And that's not a failure. That's shaped a lot of what I do. But the next thing would be building my business, working hard and struggling. We didn't make any money for several years. I mean, people always say that they wish they could run their own business, and they think about all the great things that they think it is, right? Make more money and flexible time and whatever. Most businesses fail in the first 2 years, right? You work 3 times as hard and make half as much as your friends, right? And it's hard to go through that. But my wife and kids supported that early on, and I've been doing the same job and built my business for the last 22 years. And there's been a lot of failures, a lot of successes there. As far as a failure or trial, I'd say maybe classify it that way. It's an ongoing thing, is health and mental issues. I mentioned a little bit of my son. I don't want to go into too much about that. But personally, if you watch any city council meetings, I have a horrible back. I have psoriatic arthritis. I mean, just as I'm only 45 years old, and I go into the doctor's office, they look at my, imaging, and they think I'm in my 80s. And it's just, if you've never experienced chronic pain, like it is difficult, every waking moment. And I mean, there's most of them because you don't sleep. But the best advice I got from anybody, because there's some real depression that comes with that. I'm not afraid to admit that it's tough. There's some days that it's super tough. It's hard. I tell people it's hard, especially if you have arthritis, right? And the mornings are tough. It is. I end up on the floor trying to move around. It's super tough physically, but mentally and emotionally, and affects everything around you. If you're in that kind of pain, it's difficult to function. The best advice I got kind of during that darkest time, because I've been dealing with this for 15 years or so now, was a good friend of mine who was my assistant, who's now retired, told me, look, you need to just focus on the things in life that you enjoy. You're overwhelmed by all the negative things that are limiting you. What are the things you enjoy, and focus on those and pursue them. Best advice I ever got. And now I give it to everyone. If anyone knows the details about some of my health issues and struggles and things, like, oh my gosh, how do you go through that? My answer to them is, I think everybody, as a financial planner, I get to know a lot of my clients, personally, and have those relationships and see what's going on. And I'll tell them, look, we all have our struggles. We all have our issues. I'd rather have mine than somebody else's, right? We all have something to deal with, and it's about focusing on those good things. And that's the motivation every day, is to go see those smiling kids at practice at the end of the day and have some fun.
That's the best. Well, you said the best piece of advice. So the last question I'll ask you is, what is the worst piece of advice you ever got?
Oh,
another one of my favorite questions, Jared. I love this question so much.
Worst piece of advice. I don't know. I don't know that I could tell you, because I'd say one of the things that's good about me or bad about me is I forget those kind of things really easily. I can push those things out, right? Negativity and self-interested people, and a lot of times that bad advice is that someone else is self-interested, or they're jaded, or right, whatever it is. I don't know that I could. I'm drawing a blank, because I'm sure there's a ton of it. But man,
hey, short-term memory is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, Councilman, I appreciate so much, working with your schedule and being able to get you on. I got so much empathy for what you said, and I'll personally send all the good vibes out, and hope that chronic pain is no fun, and mental health stuff is no fun. And, there's always support that way. And that's, all the good vibes I got, I'm sending to you. The last segment that we do is called is your voice, right? The purpose of this podcast is for our guests to come on and be able to share their voice. So to close us out, what would you like to say to the listeners, the people of Herriman?
Gosh, I would say two main things. One, for those that have been part of this kind of journey with me. We started the responsible growth, and they put in so much time and effort and supported me. I just tell them thank you. I couldn't do this, and we couldn't have accomplished all the things that we have without them. And I go back to all, those key people all the time and ask for their advice and whatnot. But this is not easy to do. It's a whole nother job, right? It's so much time and energy. I see a lot of people, well-meaning people, whether it's been on our council, other councils that I've dealt with different boards, where they like the idea of it and they're kind of there to feel important, and they go along to get along. They don't really get in and understand the issues. I mean, you look at our council packets, sometimes it's several hundred pages. It takes a lot of time to go through that, understand the details, and make a qualified decision. I couldn't do that and spend that time and energy sacrifice without the support of friends and neighbors and know that I'm truly representing them. So I would just say thank you to all of them. And with that continued support, I'll keep working towards all those things that we've talked about.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate your service. Like you said, it is evident your passion, and we appreciate your service and what you brought to the city. And we wish you the best of luck. I don't know what that means. Wishing good luck to a candidate. I don't know. I don't really know what that means. But whatever the good luck is, we wish it for you. Everybody, thanks for being patient. I apologize that we're a little bit off on how this looks today, but we are so grateful for the councilman for making the time to be able to get in with us and talk. And hopefully you find a lot of these things helpful. We'll post the links to be able to reach out to all of our candidates to make sure that we're providing the opportunity for you to get the best information that we can. Like I said, we've got 4 great candidates all running, and we are thankful and appreciative of each one of them for the sacrifices that they're making. So go out and make sure you're registered to vote. This will drop, and so check your mailboxes, because this is going to drop the same day that your ballots come out. So get those returned and vote, because that is how we make our community great, is by voting. So with that, we'll sign off with our catchphrase. You ready for this, Councilman?
Sure.
Ready? Herriman, we got you.
What he said. He told me what it was. I totally forgot by the time we got you.
That's okay.
Herriman, we got you.
We got you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Voices of Herriman podcast. I hope you've been inspired, moved, and have connected with the stories and the passion shared by our community. As I wrap up this episode, remember, the journey does not end here. Keep exploring, keep sharing, and keep connecting. Together, we can create a vibrant, supportive, and thriving community. If you have a story to share, a suggestion for future episodes, or just want to say, hey, I'd love to hear from you, reach out on social media at Voices of Herriman and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Before we go, a heartfelt thank you to Mix at 6 Studios for producing and editing our podcast. Head over to mixat6studios.com to learn more about all the amazing services they offer. To the amazing individuals who have shared with me their stories and our fantastic listeners, you make Voices of Herriman a meaningful experience. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and remember, I got you.